Hey, everybody, welcome back to I Know a Guy. I'm Anthony, and this is the podcast where connections thrive. Each episode, we spotlight inspiring entrepreneurs, professionals, and individuals doing amazing things. Together, we'll grow your circle, spark collaborations, and discover new opportunities. Today, we're meeting Jeff Kothe, a professional speaker who helps businesses and sales teams boost profitability by incorporating humor into their strategies. With 40 years in sales and experience as a professional comedian, Jeff combines proven techniques with originality to make businesses more memorable and successful. How are you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing great. First of all, I want to thank you for your platform. I think this is fantastic. Kudos. Good job.
No, thanks for being awesome. That's what makes this work. There's a lot of awesome people out there like you that people want to, hear from. So if I can help facilitate in that anyway, then that's good for me too. So
lots of awesome and growing. That's good.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that should get to know you. You're obviously funny. You're fun to talk to. You're very knowledgeable. But before we get into all that, where are you located? Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Mesa, Arizona. I'm from originally Wisconsin, or as I'm told I have to say it, Wisconsin, with the accent. I didn't know I had an accent until I was 46 years old. I was giving a speech in North Carolina to a room full of North Carolinians, and a lady came up at the end and says, "I love y'all's accent." And I thought she was just making fun of the fact that I spoke nothing like anybody in the room. And I said, I just started laughing, and she got offended. And I said, and she said, "No, y'all say your O's funny." And that just sounded so strange coming with that accent. And I just thought I spoke like everybody on the TV commercials I'd been, raised on in all my adult life up to that point. 46 is a long time to go without an unknown accent that you have. So yeah, Wisconsin, and I escaped to the south and a lot less snow many years ago.
Here in the Midwest, we don't have an accent. We say things the way it's supposed to be said, right? It's the only thing we got is right? Oh, let me squeeze on by it. That's about all we got. But
anyway. Opa, hike, the bubbler. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a Wisconsin thing. We don't need to go in. Anyway, yes. So where you're at now, if you have friends coming into town, where are you going? What are you doing? And where are you taking them for dinner?
Oh, wow. First of all, comedy club. There's a real shock. To dinner. My wife has a place that we love called China City. It is literally just a Chinese buffet, but they got everything there. And my wife's a little bit smaller in stature, and she can put it away when she goes in there. I don't want to embarrass her, but she gets her money's worth. Let's put it that way. So that's probably between the two of them. And then it's going to be the sunset is another beautiful thing when you're near the mountains. Believe it or not, people know desert for Mesa, Arizona, but they don't know mountains like Superstition Springs Mountain and that kind of thing. So that's what we do.
You had me at Chinese buffet. You're speaking my language there. That's all good stuff. So I'm on my way. Yeah. So awesome. Well, what can you tell us about what you do?
Let me start at the beginning because I wanted to be a comedian since I was young. I won't say I was little. That Chinese buffet spoke to me too. Since I was young, I always liked the idea of being able to come up with something creative in my head that made 300 plus people laugh, or 3,000 or 300,000, depending on how big you want to get. And I enjoyed that part of it. The creative side was the thing that really appealed to me. Well, after I got out of college, the unemployment rate was really high, and I got into sales, commission sales, because it didn't cost them anything. They paid me a commission if I made a sale. If not, I starved and they didn't care. And I proved that several times. But I started to get good at it when I started asking questions. And I got my questions to a point where some of them were to the point where they were kind of humorous. I distinctly remember one gentleman who was filling out a health application for he and his wife. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds in the insurance, I promise. But it was a health application for a long-term care. And I had said, had either of you had any surgeries? And he looked at me and said, "Well, yeah, my wife had a vasectomy." And I went, "That must have been painful." I didn't say it, but it was all I could do to choke back the laugh. It's like, "Oh, yeah, that must have really hurt." And I had another joke in there, but I'm going to leave that one out of there, how a vasectomy, what it follows with a woman. Anyway, so I learned that if I could get their attention quickly, that I help. If you ever believe in the know, like, and trust part of sales, getting them to know and like you is much easier to do if you can make them laugh. And the other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that being memorable is the only way they're going to. If you've ever given your pitch and they come back with, well, I have to think about it. And you know in your gut by dinner time, they aren't going to remember your offer or even your name. That's the kind of stuff that I fix. Humor fixes that. Because if you believe in know, like, and trust, and you can get them to laugh, you got the know and like part down. Now you got to have the trust, and it's easier to do when their guard's down on the know and the like. So, that long answer for that one, but I got in sales, started getting better at sales. I'm a professional question asker, and I always try to ask the question that leads them in the direction that I want them to go. And the comedy part is just to kind of get them off guard, for one thing, off of their guard, because the salesmen, they don't want to do any of that, right? And then the other part of it is to let them realize that you're listening. When they give you an answer and you kind of make a funny reaction, something like that, like, oh, that must have hurt. He had no idea what he said was wrong for his wife having a vasectomy. So it's the memorability. If you present and they still don't buy no matter what you've done, you've got to make a second appointment. So that's the sale you're trying to make. And if you can't get their attention or get them to know, like, and trust you, you can't even make the second appointment. If they don't remember you, they can't like you. And if they like you, they will remember you. So it works both ways. So getting them to laugh, getting them at least to smile, I can usually do that pretty fast. For example, if you were to say, well, Jeff, how you doing? I wouldn't say, I'm okay, how are you? Because to me, that's really boring. Okay. What I would probably say is, I'm awesome, but I am improving. And people, oh, wait, how do you improve from awesome? Phantasmagorical. It doesn't make any difference what you say. It's that you said something different than, I'm okay, how are you? I'm sorry, I make the face. That's how I've always said it. I've only been doing this for 40 and some years. With that remark, by the way, I've been saying awesome, but I am improving for about 40 years. I know what I talk about works because I've been using it myself. So, proof positive, right?
No, absolutely. Any kind of sale. One of the most succinct ways I ever heard it put was laughers or buyers. If you have a couple things that you kind of lean on when you're in sales, you kind of have your go-tos. This is what I'm going to say, and how I say it. But then also being witty enough to when somebody says something off the cuff, like, my wife had a vasectomy, and being like, oh no,
Yeah.
making a comment, because to your point, you're listening, and they weren't. They were just kind of going through the motion, and that brings them back to now. We're doing this. We're having this conversation. I'm asking you questions, and you
Yep.
kind of flubbed. Call me on it when I do it, because I'm going to do it too.
Well, and there's one other thing. It's not necessarily you that has to be humorous. If you can get humor out of them, it works too. Let me go on in one other story here. I had a man and a woman. This happened probably 30 years ago, I would say, maybe more. I asked them a question that they had not obviously been asked in a long, long time. They had been married for a long, long time. I said, how did you two meet? And he says, I think it was a blind date, was it? They hadn't been asked in so long they had forgotten what the answer was. And she pipes back, says, yeah, it was a blind date. Didn't go that well either. I went, oh, geez. Okay. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, there was a dance or something, and I don't think he even left the same time I did. It didn't, but you ended up married, so something must have happened, right? Yeah, we went on another date, and I don't think that one went very well either. It's like, oh, what have I dug up here? And it got to the point where I got the coolest story. It obviously is cool. I still remember it 30 some years later. And he said, yeah, we got married on a Sunday. The day we announced we're getting married is the day we got married. They opened up the courthouse for us to get the paperwork done on a Sunday. We got the pastor, we got everybody together, all the family, and nobody asked a single question. Everybody thought I was pregnant, she said. He was going off to war. It was 1942. I said, I got goosebumps thinking about, okay, they'd never talked about that with anybody for decades. And I brought back some good feelings, even though the first two dates were pretty bad. I got them laughing about it, and obviously I sold the deal, but that was the second part of it. It's not necessarily me that has to bring the humor, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, no, that's true. And acknowledging that and scratching that itch for them because they haven't been able to tell that story. No, that feels good. And that's what you want to do with a client.
And
So,
good memories. They obviously worked out because they were married. Something had to work, right? So that it brought back some endorphins of some kind. So
yeah, they're still working on that good date. It's getting better. One of these days. So, no, absolutely. So, I typically like to ask how you got started, but, that's how. What is it that you love most about what you're doing?
well, let me go back to the how you got started because I don't know how much I can play. I got started in the stand-up comedy doing open mics and that kind of thing. And the buddy of mine that was doing it with me, his name is Kevin Bozeman, by the way. If you're out there, Kevin, I see him regularly. I just saw him on a TikTok video. He said, "You know what? You're funnier than I am. We should go on the road and get an agent and go do this professionally." Well, the town I was from was about 1,100 people when I was there, and moving to New York, LA, or Chicago didn't seem all that attractive to me. And I decided I'm going to let him do it. And I probably that's one of the biggest regrets of my life is that I didn't because he's on TV regularly and doing stand up comedy, doing what he loves, and working, as they all say, an hour a day, which he isn't. But anyway, so I love the comedy part of it, and I was dared to do it to begin with from my ex-wife, who told me, you kind of like comedy. They got a class down here you should take. And I went, okay, that sounds like fun, and I took it. The thing that cracked me up the most, 26 people started in the class, and he said, "Here's the book we're going to use. Here's the syllabus of what we're going to study, and the final exam is you're going to do 5 to 7 minutes at the local comedy club live on stage." The next day, the next meeting we had, there were 12 of us instead of 26. It's like, apparently that scared a few people. Then my other part that was humorous about that class, the most memorable part, two of them, uh, they said, okay, we're almost done with the class. We're going to decide today who's going to go first and what order we're going to perform. And my hand shot up. The kid next to me looked at, "You want to go first?" I said, "Absolutely. If you guys suck, I don't want to follow you." And he goes, "That's actually not bad strategy. I'll go after you." And I said, okay. And then the thing that got me hooked was I did my 5 to 7 minutes. A buddy of mine, I put all my friends front center table. It was a big table. I didn't have just two friends. I had a lot more than that. Anyway, he says, "Hey, that was cool. Let's go I'll grab you a beer." We go to get a beer, and this lady stops me. He says, "Hey, how long have you been doing comedy?" Me, "Oh, 5 to 7 minutes." And I had no idea how long I was up there. They said they shined a light, but I didn't. Much like now, you should be shining the light. Anyway, she said, "No, you'll go far in this." And I found out later that that was the headliner for the night. I go, "Cool. The headliner thinks I'm good enough that I'm gonna do well at this." So the comedy thing has been with me all the time. And I tell people I speak in fluent sarcasm and fluent sitcom. I'll tell you the sarcastic sitcom answer. Then I'll give you the real answer. But I usually say the one that comes out funny first. And I'm told I'm pretty quick witted with that kind of stuff. So I'd love to do crowd work in comedy, but I've always been kind of afraid to do it. But I've had hecklers that I shut down really fast. So I know I could do it. Anyway, let's get back to the business side of this.
No, absolutely. But that is always fun. That's probably the most fun part to watch when somebody's like, "I'm going to take a shot of comedy from the crowd," and then they eat it, and you're like, "Oh, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy," right?
Well, they're usually
But,
drunk, and
yeah.
yeah, there was
So,
there was a there was a buddy of mine whose wife decided she wanted to be part of the show, and she was drunk, and it was pretty obvious. And I had said something about a farm and chickens, and she piped up and wanted to be part of the show. And I said, "It figures. As soon as I say something about an animal with a pecker on their face, you'd pipe up." And that I said, "Oh God, one of my best friends, I just insulted his wife." He goes, "No, God, that was great. I'm glad you shut her up." He wasn't even sitting next to her. She was so bad. Anyway, okay, I digress. I have a lot of funny stuff that's happened to me.
yeah, no, that is. I imagine so. Lifetime in comedy, you're gonna have some funny minutes, right? Otherwise, anyway. So what is it that you've loved most? Going from comedy to working in sales, and then what you're doing now. What's the most fun part of that?
I have been fortunate in my career that I get to help people. I've been in the insurance industry because I had a couple relatives that got fleeced by financial experts, if you understand why I put my fingers up in the little quotes. I have I have been in the medical device industry because of peripheral neuropathy, which now I'm somewhat of an expert on. I probably know more about your peripheral neuropathy than 99% of the country or world for that matter. Um, I've always been in a position where I could help somebody get to a better situation, spend less money, have a more comfortable life, whatever it happened to be. Uh, I've been able to do that. So helping people in the business world get their business more profitable without spending money. We are bombarded with, oh, all you got to do is buy more leads. All you got to do is do more marketing, spend more money on marketing. And talk about something that makes you laugh. Anyway, my idea is not to do that. My idea is I can show you, this sounds like a commercial, sorry. I can show you 41 ways to increase your profit in your business. Maybe not every one of them fits every business, but I got 41 choices that I can help a business get more profit without spending a dime. Now, do I know it works? I know it works to the point where I will triple your investment in me helping your business or you double your money back. I don't know what you'd have to lose in that except a little bit of time, but triple your ROI or double your money back is about as strong as a guarantee as I have seen out there when it comes to helping a business get more profit.
Yeah, no, I love that. What when you're looking at your average client or the avatar of that, or what are the pain points that they might be going through that if they're dealing with XYZ, you're the person that they should be talking to?
And I'm gonna cheat here, and I know one of the questions you're probably gonna want to ask me at the end of the program here. But there's one thing when I was doing just straight business coaching, I didn't involve any humor except maybe to get my clients. Uh, One of the things that I found was that people don't know what there's a saying called market dominating position, value proposition, elevator pitch, whatever you want to call it. What makes you better and different than your competition? Because if you don't know that, your prospective client has no possibility of knowing it, and they're going to go somewhere else. Let me give you an example. I had a female chiropractor who had a partner, and she was up in her mid 60s, and she was ready to sell the business. Her partner didn't believe it was worth the money she wanted. This is her partner in the same business goes, I don't think your business is worth it. It's like, holy cow, maybe that's partially your fault, right? But I said, well, what is it that's different about you? I asked her that question in about as many ways as I could think of, and she couldn't come up with anything. I said, well, let me ask you this. Do you do any marketing? Do you pay for any ads? Are you doing anything like that? Nope, not doing any of that. So all your business is word of mouth. Okay. Do you tell your clients that you do low impact adjustments? I found out she did low impact adjustments. I've been using a chiropractor since I was a teenager. I'm really good at throwing out my back. Okay. Maybe a little too good. And all of those things of low impact adjustments, she said, no, we don't do any advertising. The word of mouth, no, we don't necessarily tell our clients, even if they're getting low impact adjustment. I said, do you at least have a flyer that you can give to them and take it? No. Do you have a sign inside your building at all that says you do low impact adjustments? I said, no. Then how are other prospective clients going to have any idea that you do that? I said, do you have any idea how much money you're leaving on the table? I don't know, 5 or 10% maybe. I said, maybe you don't have any idea because if you don't tell anybody you do low impact adjustments, if I can't see it in any ad or hear it from any of your clients, I'm not even going to bother calling you. And I'll tell you what, it would make a difference for me. You'd be the first one I'd call if I saw low impact adjustment. And just to make a long story short, I know that ship's already sailed. A year later, she was able to add $200,000 to the value of her business and her partner bought it. So sometimes can't see the forest for the trees is a real thing. If you can't tell why you're better and different than your competition, your prospective client has no possibility of finding out either. That's one of the biggest ones that I do. I'm blown away by how many people have no idea what makes them different. Why
Absolutely.
did you hang your single? I'm sorry, I keep cutting into your...
No, you're good. Absolutely. There's a menu of options, right? So why you? what's going to make you stand out? Are you going to have this offer? Are you going to be more discoverable? Are you going to be funny? Like if all things are equal, if you do the exact same kind of work that I do, but you're funnier, you got the business, right? So there's
at least memorable. Maybe not necessarily funnier, but memorable to a point. Let me give you an example. I was in the insurance industry. I started in 1985. And when you're selling a life insurance policy or an annuity or something like that, not only do you have to try and make yourself memorable, you're not selling a similar product to your competition. You're selling the exact same product at the same price by law. Okay? You don't have a choice there. So how do you differentiate? And I have asked many insurance agents this, and I've been in the marketing side of insurance for many years, over 20 years. Well, I take the time to really get to know my client. Really? That's what you think makes you different. You think other people just go in there and say, "Hey, could you sign this?" and then walk away? It doesn't work that way. Or I've got a strategy, and it's the same strategy that everybody else has because I can show them how to Anyway, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds. I know a lot about the insurance industry, and I can help insurance people a lot. And with things that they aren't even familiar with if they're good at what they do. But any business I can take and increase their profit. Any business, I don't care what it is. I'll show them how to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you stand apart? Yeah. Luckily for me, I was always in everybody else's phone as Sasquatch's cousin, insurance guy. So very memorable. Right? They go, "Oh yeah, I definitely remember Anthony." So no, absolutely. So. What about power partners? What are good power partners for you? Other professionals or industries or other folks that you can collaborate well with or refer back and forth with?
Almost any business owner, but that's way too vague. What I want to focus on is helping the insurance industry, and there is a reason for heading that, not just because I have experience in it. It's because of the reason I got into an insurance myself. My godmother and my grandmother getting fleeced by financial experts. I said, man, there's got to be a better way. And I started to learn about qualified money, IRAs, 401ks, etc. And I got to be somewhat of an expert on it. And I just said, you know what? This is something that could be a lot better with just proper information. There's a lot of guys out there who got into the insurance industry because a buddy of theirs, and that's really a snide, but a buddy of theirs sold a policy and make a huge commission on it. Oh, I could do that. And then they struggle for 6 months. And then they go, okay, I'm getting desperate. The wife is wondering what I do for a living. I'm going to say anything I can to get a signature on it. That's the trouble with that industry. By the way, the solar industry is very similar to that. Except with the solar industry, you put those panels on your roof, they're up there for 40 or 50 years and can't do anything about it. Anyway, but I digress. So I like the insurance industry, and I can help in several different ways, especially life insurance and annuities. I've got several ways to improve the business that nobody's ever heard of. They're my own strategies that I've developed. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I've just been around this. It's not that I'm smarter than everybody. It's that I've been around this so long. I've rubbed elbows with the guys who are doing 20 million a year in production and that kind of thing. So, but teaching them how to get the attention of the person. So because you're selling the exact same product, point out things differently, and instead of the features, explain the benefits. Here's what this does. What that means to you is, and here's why that's important. Always the end, here's why that's important. And because you don't want to, and you don't want to can be something funny too. Because you don't want to end up sleeping in a refrigerator box under the bridge. Even though that's what they're afraid of, it's funny when you point it out. It's like, yeah, we're nowhere near that. But you're talking about my $300,000 account. I'm not worried about refrigerator boxes. But I digress. Yeah, I go off on tangents. You can tell I have fun when I'm talking to somebody about how they can get better at what they do, and that's what I do with my clients.
I didn't get that at all. No, you hide it well. No. So what advice would you give to a new or aspiring entrepreneur?
Well, number one, and that's why I said I'm cheating here, the market dominating position is absolutely the first key. If you don't know why you're different, you should be doing something else. The other thing is I had a 7th grade teacher who told me, If you do what you like, you'll never work a day in your life. That's important. I don't necessarily believe in follow your passion, but make your passion your thing that you can live with, or make the thing you can live with your passion. One of they can switch, by the way. I'm very much a victim of that, so to speak. Um, the other thing would be to get some help, get coaching. I don't have a coach in my life that doesn't have a coach. I know that may sound weird, but we can. Michael Jordan had a coach. Tiger Woods has a coach. He switched his coach several times trying to get better. All of the golf guys, they have coaches. They're trying to get better at what they do. People who are very good at what they do are always trying to get better. Don't be afraid to get a coach. Get somebody to help you in the line of maybe a joint venture, or somebody who is also selling to somebody that you would have your customer be. Those are the people you want to get to help. Hey, maybe we can work something out. My customers, I'll refer to you. Your customers, you defer to me. We'll either do it a percentage or we'll do it on a barter system. Just let's make sure it's not a one-way street where I'm giving you all my clients and you're not doing anything but taking them, that kind of thing. So those would probably be the biggest ones. And then the one that the 600, 800-pound gorilla, I don't know how big the gorilla is anymore, is to make sure that you're working with AI and a CRM that involves automation, integration, those kind of things. It can just save you so much time. And I know you use it as well. So get those in play. You spend the time one time to learn it. It's going to grow, but spend the time to initiate it, and it'll save you a bunch of time so you have time to make the advances later.
Absolutely. All that is fantastic advice. All of those are hard won lessons too. That's not something that you can 100% get from somebody telling you. You're going to live part of it. You're gonna make the mistake, and you're gonna say, if I only had to listen to Jeff, right? So absolutely. And then using technology, it's the idea is that it's letting you spend more time on the parts that you're good at and less time on the stuff. The stuff can be worked out either through hiring somebody to take care of it, integrating systems and processes. You want to spend as much time working on the stuff that is actually going to make you money, as opposed to the frivolous.
Exactly.
So
too many entrepreneurs spend 80% of their time on what makes them 20% of the money.
Exactly.
And you got to switch that around. You just have to. Yep. You just have to say, you know what? That's not important to me right now. It doesn't make me money, and I need to focus on this. And sometimes it's really hard to do. It's nice to do networking events and that kind of thing, and so forth. But if you're not getting any referrals, if you're not getting any clients out of it, stop doing it. At least for a while. Try the other route and see what road makes you more money. Because at the end, it's the bottom line of how much cash is coming in.
Yep. Pivot. So absolutely. How can public speaking and comedy skills help professionals stand out in business?
That's an excellent question. First of all, the public speaking part, if you don't know how to speak about your business, you're in trouble. You're in sales because you're public speaking about your company, even if it's on the phone, if it's on a Zoom, if it's at a cocktail party, it doesn't make any difference. You're trying to speak about your company, and that's what's selling your company. So the other part of that is adding humor to that makes you more memorable. Let's go back. I mentioned networking events. If you're at a networking event, I can almost guarantee, I've been to a bunch of them. Okay. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying don't spend all your time if it's not making you money. I've gotten some pretty good referrals out of that. But if I'm at a networking event, I can just about guarantee you that everybody in that networking event remembers me. I'm not trying to be famous. I just say things in there that people go, okay, wait a minute, that was pretty funny. And I add things and I do things differently than most people attend those events. It's to be remembered. And, that's the guy that adds humor, because that's what they're going to remember. That's what's going to get me a referral. That's what's going to get me maybe a joint venture partner, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely it does. Being able to stand out, there's a couple ways of doing it. That being one. The other one is letting other people talk and being engaged and letting them be the interesting person. Because if you can let them do that, then also have, like you said, those witticisms, they're going to help you be more engaged with what they're saying. They're going to like you more. People will sit there and talk about themselves for 30 minutes. And then at the end, they'll tell you how great of a conversationalist you were. And you're like, yeah, I let you go.
My little sister used to do something I called anaerobic speech. She was talking to me on the phone. I sat the phone down and went away for 15 or 20 minutes. I came back and she was still going. I was like, did you ever take a breath? I'm just curious. I called it anaerobic speech. Anyway, yeah, some people are real talkers. This is going to shock some people. I was an introvert. When I was a kid, I was born 2 weeks late. I've been heavy my whole life. I was picked on. That's probably where the comedy as a defense mechanism came in. However, I was an introvert and I didn't want to draw the attention to me. Now I would have to say I'm the opposite. I'm one of those, if somebody says, who'd like to come to the front of the room and speak? My arm goes up. Okay. I love the opportunity to get up there and show that I know how to talk. If you notice, I haven't spent a whole lot of time saying and, any of the filler words. I'm usually pretty good at keeping away from those until I bring it up. Then I'll probably say one anyway.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely go back and count. But no,
as will I.
I know there's a lot to this, and when you're talking sales and comedy, there's so many areas that we can talk on for hours and hours and hours. But just in general, is there anything that I missed or that I failed to ask that you wanted to add?
The only thing I could think of is if you know of an event that I could speak at, that's adding the plug, right? If you know of an event that I could speak at, or if you could use some help, I will give free consultations, and I'll give 5 or 6 different things, action items that you can use immediately to go, okay, I can do this. And what I find with most business owners, and the reason I bring that up, is because I'll give you so many things to implement. They don't take very long unless you actually set aside to do that, and most business owners won't take the time to do it. So I just ask, well, this, and this, that would probably increase your profit by this much. Would you like some help implementing that? And that's my closing line. Is it, would you like help? I know how to do this. Would you like help? Because you probably don't have time. My job is to increase your profit, not increase your spending, and give you more time so that you can pay attention to the things you want to. Somebody tells me about the number of days they took off to celebrate their birthday. It ticks me off. I work way too many hours. You spent how many days off? I don't remember 2 days I've had off in a row. I'll just end that sentence there, period. I don't remember. So getting busy is good if it's making you money. The biggest thing I could tell an entrepreneur to get is be relatable. And if you're big enough that you're hiring people, make sure you use humor there, because they see you as more approachable. It's the same way with clients too. It's not just your own employees, but you're seen as more approachable if you'll use humor. If you've seen anybody who's very dry and gives the sales pitch and what do you think? And any reason you wouldn't want to do this, which by the way is still a good question. However, you got to make sure that you're getting their attention and they're going to remember your name, remember your offer, and why they are thinking about it if they didn't already sign the paperwork. That's it, I think.
Yeah. So for everybody out there that wants to be more memorable, that would like a good laugh, where can they find you? How can they get a hold of you?
There's 2 different ways. If you'd like to just hire me for the speaking, I'll do speaking whether it's virtually or live and about anywhere. Then that would be just jeffkothe.com. So you can see it on the screen there, jeffkothe.com. If you're looking for help on the humor side, that would be at humor.jeffkothe.com. Clever, huh? Just thought it was easier to find that way. And get on my calendar, free consultation. We'll decide if what I do will help. And I'm not going to try and talk you into anything. If what I do makes sense for you, you'll know it, especially with a 3-to-2 guarantee, triple your ROI or double your money back. So it's hard to say no to that. I know. I like that part.
Yeah, perfect. Almost by design, right? No.
Yeah, so almost.
If anybody would like to get a hold of Jeff, absolutely do it. You're going to walk away smiling, knowing more than you did going in. He's exactly the same, maybe a little bit more restrained here than he is in a one-on-one, but you're gonna have a good time. Have that conversation. He's doing awesome things. He's helping people. So if you need that, absolutely reach out. I'm going to put all that in the show notes, so feel free to find it there. Just click on it and go. We'll make it as easy as possible. But other than that, if anybody would like to get a hold of me, you can find me at ikag.me. You can find more episodes, subscribe to our newsletter, and connect with our growing community of awesome people like Jeff. If you or somebody you know would like to be interviewed, you can also apply on the website. But Jeff, I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to, making us all smile, kind of giving us some really good advice. There's some nuggets in there between the stories. So I really appreciate
It's
that.
an absolute pleasure taking the time. I love getting the story out there because too many people. My goal is to actually cancel culture. I think humor needs to come back in the workplace. But I appreciate your platform. I think it's wonderful to get to know somebody where you know something about them here, where your first meeting with them is not so much a first meeting. It's more of a second meeting and deeper dive. And that works very well. I like it. Thank you.
Exactly. We can make the world more efficient and funnier. So let's do it. Let's all go have an awesome day and grow our circles. All right.
Cool.